December 1944. The Ardennes Forest. Snow. Blood. Smoke. A single American soldier lies pinned in a crater 30 yards from German lines. No backup. No radio, no way out. His rifle's jammed, his hands are frozen. And 17 Wehrmacht soldiers are closing in, rifles raised, voices barking orders in German. He should be dead already, but then he does something impossible. He starts whistling, not a hymn, not a prayer, a nursery rhyme. The Germans freeze, confused, and in the next 30 seconds 14 of them will be dead, not from artillery, not from air support, from him, one man, one sidearm, 30 seconds of absolute surgical violence that military historians still can't fully explain. His name was Private First Class Leo the Ghost, Harker, and what he did in that frozen crater defied every law of combat. But how did he do it? Why did he whistle? And why did the US Army bury his story for nearly 40 years? This is the story they didn't want you to know. To understand what happened in that crater, you need to understand where Leo Harker came from. Born 1922. Billings, Montana. Son of a railroad worker. Dropped out of school at 15 to work the mines. No military background, no special training, just a quiet kid who loved two things, birds and silence. His sister later said he could whistle any birdsong he'd ever heard, cardinals, sparrows, hawks. He'd sit for hours on the ridge above town just listening, then mimicking them perfectly. The other mine workers thought he was strange, too quiet, too still. But Leo wasn't strange, he was watching, always watching. When Pearl Harbor was hit, Leo didn't rush to enlist like the others. He waited 3 months, then walked into the recruitment office in February 1942 without telling anyone. His father found out from a telegram. Basic training at Fort Benning. Leo didn't stand out. Average marksman, average fitness. His drill sergeant wrote in his file, "Harker is competent but lacks aggression. Recommend rear echelon assignment." But Leo requested infantry. When asked why, he said, "I want to see it up close." By November 1944, he was with the 99th Infantry Division, 394th Regiment. They called them the Battle Babies because most had never seen combat. And then came the Ardennes, Hitler's last desperate gamble, Operation Wacht am Rhein, the Battle of the Bulge, 200,000 German troops smashing through the weakest point in Allied lines, panzers, SS divisions, artillery that turned the forest into a hellscape of splintered trees and frozen corpses. The 99th wasn't supposed to be there. They were green, inexperienced, cannon fodder. On December 16th, the German offensive hit them like a sledgehammer. Leo's company was ordered to hold a crossroads near Krinkelt, 43 men against an entire Wehrmacht battalion. They lasted 6 hours. By nightfall, 31 were dead. The survivors scattered into the forest. Leo ran west with 4 others trying to reach American lines. They didn't make it. A German patrol caught them in open ground. Machine gun fire tore through the snow. 2 men dropped instantly. Another took a round through the lung and went down screaming. Leo and a corporal named Eddie Voss dove into a shell crater. That's when Leo's rifle jammed. Bolt, frozen, solid, useless. Eddie had a Thompson but only half a magazine left. Maybe 15 rounds. They could hear the Germans regrouping, voices in the dark, the metallic click of rifles being reloaded. Eddie was shaking, not from cold, from terror. He looked at Leo and whispered, "We're dead. We're fucking dead." Leo said nothing. He just checked his sidearm, a standard issue M1911. 7 rounds in the magazine, 1 in the chamber, 8 bullets total. Eddie kept talking, panicked, saying they should surrender, that the Germans would take prisoners, that they had to try. Leo put a hand on his shoulder, looked him in the eyes, and whispered, "When I move, you run west. Don't stop. Don't look back." Eddie started to argue, but Leo cut him off. "That's an order." Eddie wasn't an officer, neither was Leo, but something in Leo's voice made it final. Then they heard it. Boots crunching closer, German voices, a flashlight beam sweeping the crater's edge, 17 soldiers Full squad, moving in a tactical formation to clear the position. This was it. Eddie gripped his Thompson, ready to go down fighting, but Leo did something Eddie would never forget. He smiled, not a grin, not bravado, just a small, calm smile like he'd figured something out. Then he started whistling. Soft at first, almost gentle. The melody was strange, childish. Pop goes the weasel. Eddie stared at him like he'd lost his mind. The Germans heard it too. The voices stopped. The footsteps paused. For 3 seconds the entire forest went silent, except for that eerie, lilting whistle. Then Leo stood up. Just rose from the crater like he was standing up from a Sunday pew. No hesitation, no fear. The Germans saw him. Flashlights snapped to his position. 17 rifles aimed at his chest. Someone shouted in German, "Hände hoch!" Hands up. Leo kept whistling, hands at his sides, pistols still holstered. The German sergeant barked another order, louder this time. Leo tilted his head slightly, like he was listening to something far away. Then his right hand moved, not fast, not slow, fluid, like water. The M1911 cleared the holster. First shot, German sergeant, center mass, dropped. Second shot, soldier to the left. Throat, gurgling. The Germans tried to react, but their rifles were slung low. Safety's still on because they thought they had him. Third shot, flashlight holder, face, light, spun into the snow. Fourth shot, soldier raising his car, 98K. Chest, Leo moved between shots, not running, gliding, stepping left, then right, using the darkness and their confusion. Fifth shot, officer reaching for his Luger, shoulder, spun him like a top. The remaining Germans opened fire, but they were shooting at where Leo had been, not where he was. Muzzle flashes lit up the crater. Chaos. Screaming. Sixth shot, soldier turning toward Eddie. Headshot. Seventh shot, grenadier fumbling with a stick grenade. Stomach. Eighth shot, another soldier. Leo didn't even look, just pointed and fired. The man went down. 8 shots. 8 seconds. Then the M1911 clicked empty. But Leo didn't stop moving. He dropped the pistol, snatched a rifle from a dying German, and fired 3 more rounds in rapid succession. 9 dead, 10, 11. The survivors broke. Full retreat, running blindly into the forest. Leo picked up a second rifle, aimed, fired. 12, aimed, fired. 13. The last German soldier tripped, crawled behind a tree, and Leo put 2 rounds through the trunk. 14. Total time elapsed. 32 seconds. The forest went silent again. Eddie was still in the crater, Thompson unfired, staring at Leo with his mouth open. Leo stood there, breath misting in the frozen air, holding a dead man's rifle. Then he turned to Eddie and said, "Calm as Sunday morning. You should go now." Eddie ran, sprinted west like the devil was behind him. Leo stayed. He moved through the bodies methodically, collected ammunition, dog tags, a German officer's map case, no emotion, no triumph, just work. Then he heard voices, more Germans, a second patrol drawn by the gunfire. Leo looked at the approaching lights, then back at the crater. He started whistling again, same tune. Pop goes the weasel. And he vanished into the darkness. Eddie Voss made it back to American lines 3 hours later. He was hypothermic, delirious, babbling about a soldier who'd killed 14 Germans in half a minute. The officers thought he was in shock, shell-shocked, hallucinating. They sent him to a field hospital, wrote it off as combat stress. But 2 days later, a reconnaissance patrol found the crater. 14 German bodies, killed in a pattern so precise, so methodical, that the intelligence officers couldn't believe it was one man. They thought it was an ambush, a squad, maybe a special forces unit, until they found the spent M1911 magazine, 8 casings, American issue, and carved into the frozen dirt of the crater, someone had scratched 2 words, "Leo was here." The army launched a quiet investigation. They needed to know who Leo Harker was and where he'd learned to shoot like that. The answer terrified them. He hadn't. Leo's training records showed him as average. His shooting scores were middle of the pack. No sniper training. No special operations background. Nothing that explained what happened in that crater. A psychologist interviewed Eddie Voss, asked him to describe exactly what Leo did. Eddie said, "He didn't aim, not like normal. He just looked at them and fired, like he already knew where they'd be." The psychologist asked, "Did he seem angry, afraid?" Eddie shook his head. He seemed calm, like he was doing math. They found Leo 3 weeks later. He'd been moving alone through German-held territory, hitting patrols, supply lines and observation posts, always at night, always alone. The Germans started calling him der Pfeifer, the whistler, because survivors reported hearing a strange whistling sound right before their positions were hit. By January 1945, Leo had an estimated 37 confirmed kills, all behind enemy lines, all solo. The army didn't know whether to court-martial him for operating without orders or give him a medal. They did neither. They pulled him out, shipped him stateside, put him in a military hospital for psychological evaluation. The official report said PFC Harker exhibits no signs of psychosis or combat fatigue. Subject is cooperative but uncommunicative, displays unusual calm under questioning, recommend discharge with honors and immediate civilian reintegration. Translation: they didn't understand him, and that scared them. Leo was discharged in April 1945. No ceremony, no medal, just a handshake and a train ticket to Montana. He went back to Billings, got a job at the same mine, never talked about the war. His sister said he'd sit on the ridge again, just like before, whistling to the birds. When people asked about his service, he'd say, "I did my part. That was it." The army buried his story, classified the after-action reports, sealed the witness statements. For 40 years, Leo the Ghost Harker was erased from history. Why? Because what he did didn't fit the narrative. He wasn't a hero charging into battle. He wasn't a sniper taking calculated shots from distance. He was something else, something the military couldn't train, couldn't replicate, couldn't control. A man who'd found something in the chaos, some frequency of violence so pure, so instinctive it looked like magic, and they couldn't have soldiers thinking that was possible. Leo Harker died in 1983. Heart attack, age 61. At his funeral, 7 men showed up in uniform, older guys, veterans. Eddie Voss was one of them. He stood at the grave and told Leo's sister the truth. The whole story, the crater, the whistling, the impossible 30 seconds. She cried, not from sadness, from relief, because she'd always known her brother had carried something heavy, something he couldn't name. Now she understood. In 1989, a military historian named Dr. Sarah Kellerman found Leo's file while researching the Battle of the Bulge. She spent 2 years tracking down witnesses, interviewing survivors, reconstructing what happened. Her report concluded PFC Leo Harker represents a statistical anomaly in combat effectiveness. His actions on December 16, 1944, remain one of the most lethal individual engagements in U.S. military history. She recommended posthumous recognition. The Army reviewed her findings, and in 1991, 47 years after that frozen crater, Leo Harker was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross. His sister accepted it. She was 83. At the ceremony, a reporter asked her, "Did your brother ever tell you why he whistled?" She smiled. The same small smile Leo had. And she said, "He told me once. He said when everything gets loud, you have to make your own quiet." Today, Leo Harker's name appears in exactly 3 places: a cemetery in Billings, a dusty army archive, and the memories of the men who saw what he could do. No movies, no books, no monuments, just a ghost story whispered among veterans. About the quiet kid from Montana who turned a frozen crater into a graveyard, who whistled nursery rhymes while 17 men tried to kill him, and who walked out alone because some soldiers don't need orders, they don't need backup, they just need 30 seconds and 8 bullets, and the courage to stand up when every instinct screams to stay down. That's the story of Leo Harker, the ghost of the Ardennes, the man who whistled at death and won.